Today is another special show. I'm joined today by Dusan Babic, who is actually a 33-year-old full-time goalkeeper coach in the Swedish top flight. Dusan, I welcome you to the show, and how are you doing?
Thank you very much. Really good. I'm really good. It's my first day off, so it's kind of a little bit the vacation is starting today. So maybe you realize it because we had it hard to find time for this interview, but here I am now.
Yes, I think people may not know actually that the Swedish tiers end a bit earlier than England. So they've just ended a few days ago. I think it was actually last week. And we can even talk about that where you guys ended up finishing because you've just built on progress from the season before. But please introduce yourself as to who you are as a footballer and start us off from the very beginning, from the first time you ever kicked a football.
First time I ever kicked a football is a long time ago. I think I was 4 years old when I started to play in my home community, Gislaved. It's a small community, so I started off there. I lived there until I was 23 years old. So my whole playing football career was at Gislaved. So then I moved on to Gothenburg and still living in Gothenburg part time. So switching Gothenburg and Värnamo for that's my daily routine. But I played until I was 23 years old. Played as a goalkeeper, but my last season I played as a left wing back. So yeah, I switched a lot.
What struck your eye then later down the line to become a goalkeeper coach? Because for a lot of people, that's not a route that they would like to go down. So why is goalkeeping the route for you?
I don't know. I think it was my father that started that to grow that interest because he was a goalkeeper and he talked about his early days as a goalkeeper. When he talked, he said that he was a good talent, but I don't know. I've only heard him say that, so, so I don't have any how do you say any nobody else has said that. So I have to believe him. So it was my father that started that interest.
Before you became full time, you were part time at another club, and you could talk us through that, and we can talk really in depth about all the clubs that you've been at. But you were also a teacher, a teaching assistant. So again, was that just trying to balance out the books to be able to afford to live, or was it just because you love teaching, but then later down the line you converted into a full time coach?
Yeah, you can say that because I started off as a coach in my home community. Uh, I went from a player to a coach in Gislaved CES. I started to coaching the kids in all ages and as well the first team. So I was there for like a year, and then I moved on to Gothenburg, where I started to study sports coaching, and that made me have some contacts and have some contacts in the EFK Göteborg's academy. So then I started to study and work as a goalkeeper coach in the academy under 16. It was then EFK Göteborg. There is also the first team is also playing in the top league. So it was a good. It was a good. How do you say? You can combine those two really good. So after my time in the university, I started to Gothenburg find me this job at the school. So they find a job that I can combine with the football. So I was in Gothenburg, IFK Gothenburg for like 2 years, maybe a little more, 2.5 maybe, and then I got a contract with Tvååkers IF. It's a really small, how do you say, almost a village outside Gothenburg. But they have a really good first team, so they are playing in the Division One, which is the third league. So here in Sweden, you can say that it's a how do you say, semi-professional
Perfect.
league.
Yeah.
So that's where I started to realize that this could maybe go even further. So I ended up after 2 years in Gothenburg, ended up in Tvååkers IF, where I still continue to work at the school. And because it's really hard to find a full-time job in those leagues here in Sweden. So you have to be at the top league to have a full-time job as a coach or as a goalkeeper, especially goalkeeper coach. So and then I was in Tvååker 3 years. My last year in Tvååker, I was assistant coach. We ended up in 6th place, I think. Did a really good season. After that, I took a contract with Lindome, another Division 1 club, that's much closer to Gothenburg, so I didn't have to travel as a lot. So I stayed there for 3 years, and after that, IFK Värnamo contacted me, and now I'm here.
We'll talk about Lindum later on because you said it was a very special time when you were at the club. But I want to talk about the playing career. You've played in the 4th league of Swedish football, and you were 23 years old when you decided that coaching was correct for you. But I want to talk about this Swedish league in itself. What's it like to play in Sweden? Because the lower down you seem to go in England, the more aggressive it gets. Maybe there's more fouls in a game, and it's not lovely football to watch. Is that the same in Sweden?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I think it will. The 2nd division, which is the 4th division in Sweden, there it's become more tactical and more tactical football. But there in the lower leagues, it's more aggressive, more stamina, and those you win games with in the last minutes. It's the team that has the most how do you say the most those who are the best trained wins the games. So but when you come up, there's more tactical and yeah.
When you transitioned at 23 years old, and we spoke a little bit off here about that's very early for a lot of people, and maybe there was an injury that maybe struck you, or maybe it was just the mindset that you wanted to become a coach. And then that later on down the line meant you became assistant manager and now a full-time goalie coach in the top flight of Swedish football. How did that come about? Did you just wake up one day and say, it's time for a career change?
I always told myself that I won't play lower than Division 4. And then when I have been in the Division 4 for so long, I realized that I will not live on this. But I love football so much, so I have to find another path. So that's why I chose quite early to become a coach instead. I think that was a smart move because my goal has always been to live on, to make a living out of the things I love. So football is one of those things. And I realized that when I was 23 years old, there's no chance for me to play a professional as a player. So that's why I changed to a coach.
For some people, they seem to tell me that it's quite easy to get into football, whether it be just in the club environment in itself. And you said that that was one of the options that you wanted to have. You always wanted to do something that you loved, and football was one of those. But what happens? And you can talk about yourself, or you can talk about a general group. What's it like? How hard is it to get into a job in football? Because what happens if you didn't get that role? What would you have done then?
It's really hard, especially here in Sweden. I would like to say it's really hard to have this opportunity to work full time because in Sweden it's still, I think we are maybe the 27th league in the world. So there's still a lot of progression that has to happen before we are even talking about to have full time coaches in the lower leagues. But as I said before, I think that I will still work in school. I really love my job. I helping others, especially young people, to have them going on the right path. So that was I think that I would like to work with that, even if I didn't have a football to live for living. I think that I will continue to work in the school have something like that.
You stayed in
Because
Sweden in this career path for many, many years. And that means you must like the country, right? So, from someone who's never been to a country like Sweden, we're going to go off topic a little bit and talk about what Sweden like generally as a country. Because from England's perspective, from a lot of perspectives, it's quite a calm country, quite a nice, safe country for a lot of people.
yeah, it is. It's really safe. It's cold, maybe like in the UK. I think we have the same weather. It's always cold. We have our Brazilians that's they're always complaining about the weather. It's too cold, especially in the winter. And we have a long pre-season, so they are complaining all the time about the weather. And players that comes from outside Europe, they have a long time to adapt to the weather. So that's what Sweden especially known for, the cold weather. But otherwise, it's a really safe country. You have all the things that you need to have a work. Everybody's working. You get your salary every month. You don't have to think about that. So it's a really safe country. Or yeah. Uh,
You spoke about Sweden being, I think it was the 20 something, the best league in the world. And that number seems relatively low. But from a perspective, when you sort of zoom out, that is quite low for a country that's in Europe that you would think has the finances to be able to spread around evenly into the third, fourth, fifth divisions of Sweden. How do you improve Sweden then, from a football's perspective? If you were the head of it all, what would you do?
you only have one team that's playing out in Europe year from year. You have Malmö FF. They're playing in Europe almost every year, but you have to have more teams that need to come out to Europe, because there's the money. You have to. If you're a European club, then the players will come to you, and you don't have to really. And now we are struggling to get good players to the leagues. So, and the economy isn't. We can't even take Denmark, for example. That's a whole another level. And Sweden and Denmark are, they're just a bridge between them, but they're on a whole nother level when it comes to football. So I think we especially need to have more clubs out in Europe. But first of all, I think that we are playing too few matches here in Sweden. So we're playing 30 matches a year, and some of the teams you don't make it to the Swedish Cup, so you only have 30 matches, and I think that's too low. So you have to have more matches and that's where you become a better team, better football player. So you more matches, I think, starting off to maybe create a league with more matches.
If you sat down with the head of UEFA, you and a few other people that have the same beliefs as you, they would ask you why. Why do you think that Sweden should have more places to be able to qualify for the Conference League, for the Europa League, and the Champions League year on year? And what would you say to that? How can you prove to them that allocating Sweden more places in a European competition is going to do them good?
That's a big question. That's a really big question. But for now, I don't think if you look at the results that are in Europe, we don't really deserve to have more places, because you look at Sweden now, our champions, Häcken lost against Klaksvik. That's how do you say in England, Faroe Islands. They lost against them. So I don't think we deserve more places for now. I think that we are just have to find another way here in Sweden to develop our teams, to develop our league, so that we can. We have to start here in our country. I don't think it's up to the UEFA that we are deserving more places, because we have the places, but we still can't manage to come out to Europe.
We've seen in the past with China when they invested billions into football, and that didn't go so well. And now we're seeing it with Saudi Arabia, where they've bought Ronaldo, they've bought so many amazing players because they have the finances. And what you said here, Sweden may not have the finances to be giving the players like Ronaldo stupid amount of money every single week, which is fair enough. But how do you get those mid to range players? So I hate to throw names under the bus. John Matip, for example, decent Premier League player. How can you get him over to Sweden? Is that even possible? Or would you have to just pay him a heap load of wages? And does that mean then the youth is more important? Because in a country like Saudi Arabia, where they can give Ronaldo £1 million a week, for example, they're not really implying a lot on their youth. So the youth might not be as determined because there's no route into the first team. In a country like Sweden, is the youth so crucial?
Yeah, of course, it's really crucial. Take us, for example, a small club. We are doing our second year in the top league, so we are really trying to use our young players as much as possible. We're really trying to develop them as much as possible, because to survive in the top league, to survive as a club, we have to we can't afford to just buy players all year after year. So we have to depend on our young players. So we have to give them a chance to show themselves, and maybe in the future to sell them. So we can go around as a club. So I think in Sweden it's really important that all the teams are giving the young a good environment, to give them a good possibility to grow as a football players. So yeah, if you want a player from outside the country, then you have to pay. That's it. That's the only chance.
I spoke to a professional footballer from Finland the other day, and he was mainly over in Finland. Sorry, then he went to Lithuania where he revived his career. But he also played in Sweden, and he said if you compare Finland to Sweden, the facilities in Sweden are much better. And this was going back maybe 15 years ago when he was a bit of a younger youth player. Do you still agree? Are the facilities in Sweden, are they still up there, or have they just derailed a bit?
No, it's becoming a better and better all the time. And the facilities, you have the communities that are seeing that the football is really a big part of the society. So they're really investing in the facilities. So I think that they still, if you compare to Finland, it's really good here in Sweden. And so we are all the teams, even in the lower leagues, almost have artificial grass. So they can play all year round. So they're really investing in facilities.
You spoke earlier about the season finishing later, so that means it starts within a few months, right? So how long's your break? What do you do in that break, and when does the season start back up again?
So my break started off today. We still have a little work this week, but today you can say that it started. We will be free till the 10th December, and then we will train for 2 weeks, and then we will go on a break again for a Christmas break for like 2 weeks, and then we will start off to train again in January. And this 2 weeks that we will train in December is because we have the Swedish Cup that will start in February, so that's why we start a little bit earlier. But what I do in my break, it's I work on my break. It's the work. The work will never end. You always have something you want to do for the next season. You always plan something, and now we are getting a new coach, a new head coach. So it will try to work as much as possible to help him. So that's what I do on my break.
For a team then like Malmo, who are up there all the time, how does it work when they have domestic competitions and Champions League games? How does it work? Because are they still going to be training in this period, or do they sort of keep it a bit low until February?
No, I think they will still try to find the players, especially they are really good to transfer players from our own league. So they always try to find the best players in the league and to make their team even bigger and stronger. So we can, I think that we will see some transfers that Malmö will do in this transfer window as well. So they have always, they have the power to do that, and most of all players want to play for a team like Malmö. So
How
they have an
many
advantage there.
how many months is your transfer window? Because in England it's January till the end of January. So how long's yours? Is it longer?
I have to check that. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure because I don't have those. That's not my.
But surely you've got to be
That's our
looking at some
club.
new keepers, right? Got to get some new keepers under the
We
belt.
yeah, one we will have one goalkeeper is we will try to find one goalkeeper for this transfer window. So
How many
we will see
goalkeepers do
how
you have?
three
So I spoke to a goalkeeper
goalkeepers.
coach yesterday, weirdly enough, who also had three, and he told me that he would always start who he thought was the best player in the big games, which is fair enough. But then the other two were sort of like challenging for second place. They weren't challenging for first, and they'd play in the cup competitions. Is that how it works for you, or do they all just play and rotate?
We have this year was really special because we rotate 4 times, I think, this season. I don't think another club. I have never done it before because you always want to have one goalkeeper that feels secure in his position. And as a goalkeeper, it's really special, to rotate that much as we did. So I would say that here in EFK Värnamo, we have 3 goalkeepers. One of them is on loan for a Division 1 club so that he can get some games, which is the most important thing, in my opinion. But he trains with us 1 to 2 weeks, 1 to twice a week. So, but then you have the other goalkeepers that I always say that you have to fight and that you have to train as if you were the one that will start at the game. So when I train the goalkeepers, I don't train to focus on the first goalkeepers. I would say that I focus more on the second goalkeeper so that he could be a better sparring partner to the first goalkeeper. So they push each other all the time.
When you signed for this team as a coach, is it the same process that a player undergoes? Because I've seen behind the scenes before of Mohamed Salah joining Liverpool and these sorts of top class players. But when you joined into a top division side in Sweden, what was that like? How did it come about? Like, did you just get the email, or how did it come about? Where 1 minute you were not where you were, the next day you were.
I think it started when I was in Lindome. I had 3 players, one in Tvååker as well, and 2 players from Lindome that were playing in EFK Värnamo. And I heard that they were searching for a new goalkeeper, and then I think my name came up from the players. That's because I know that the sports director was asking them about me. So after he checked with them, I got the call, and they checked if I was interested in if there was a possibility if I was interested in that. So it started off, I think it's contacts, and yeah, I had those players before, and I think it was much because of them my name came up. But the
You spent
process
3
as well.
years.
Yeah.
Yes. Talk me through the process. What was that like?
Now it was like they called me, and first of all they just checked if I was interested, and then we set up a meeting. The first meeting was about how I work, how I was as a person, just to get to know me, and then we set up a new meeting with the club chief and sports director, and I introduced my how do you say, my philosophy and my methodology. Yeah, so I introduced that, and yeah, it became after that they were interested and gave me a contract. So 2 meetings, and
You
then I got
mentioned
the
work
contract.
quite. You mentioned that about 2 or 3 times there, and you do have a lot on your hands. And I'm not sure if it's just you. Oh, it is just you. I'm not entirely sure. But you analysed all the goals scored in the whole of the top flight of Sweden, and I'll say top flight because I actually can't pronounce the name. Is it? How do you pronounce the top flight of Sweden?
Allsvenskan.
Oh, okay,
Allsvenskan.
I'm not going to try that. However, talk us through when you decided to analyse all the goals scored in the top flight.
It all started when I started my education, UFA goalkeeper education, and we had there was a task where we had to do a bigger analyze work. So I looked at my environment at home, and especially I saw that we always had some Barretts or in front of the shooting, in front of the striker. And I talked to the head coach how he was thinking of that, and he told me that he thought that it was almost every time a shot that you have traffic in their way, so you never shoot you never shoot and you have the goal free. So you always have something in between the goal and the striker. So that's where my thoughts started to work about this. So I started to look at every goal this season. I started to analyze every goal, looked at different angles, camera angles, to find how many people were in the way in front of the striker and in front of the goalkeeper, of course, to see how that affects the goalkeeper's position and decision making. So that's how it started. The UFA started that work.
When you look at other goalkeeper coaches, as I said before, it's a bit of a niche because you have loads of general coaches, but maybe not so many specific goalkeeper coaches. Do they do similar things to you where they analyze the whole league and they must sit down there for hours and just analyze it? Or are you one that has maybe come up with that idea and other people sort of do other things? And if so, what other things do they do?
Ooh, good question, but I haven't seen this study before. I have seen something quite similar where the goals are scored, but that's those statistics we get after every game. So it's a good question. I can't remember that I've seen something similar to that. Maybe they are doing it for themselves, but my job was to find this and to share it when I'm done. So we'll see if that affects how the other goalkeeper trainers will think about their session design.
We spoke a minute ago about other goalkeepers, and I want to ask you, how do you improve as a goalkeeper coach? Because a player can improve by keeping more clean sheets or just being more consistent. But if you're going to base it off a club like Liverpool, which was the exact same example I gave yesterday, what would their coach, their goalkeeper coach, do differently to what you do with your players? Because they're dealing with Allison, Adrian, and Kelleher, and you're dealing with other players. So those players may know a bit more, they might know a bit less. But what would you do, or how do you do differently to the coach over at Liverpool?
Uh, Good question. I think that my type of work is that I always look on our style of play. I always look before I came to Värnamo. I looked at almost every game and tried to see patterns where what the goalkeepers could develop even more, what they could use in their position, how the team can use the goalkeeper even more. So I start to analyze that, and when I came to Värnamo, we talked really much about we want the goalkeepers to be more enveloped in the build-up play. So we work a lot with build-up. We have a lot of passing sessions try to get the passing into almost every session, but not just passing. You have to, because it's our style of play, we have to design the sessions so that they can find the same patterns in the game. So we try to put the game into the training so that they could almost find the same target areas, if you understand what I mean. So it's not just finding the passes, it's finding the right target area as well.
I understand perfectly what you mean. And for goalkeepers, I'm gonna talk about the Brazilian goalkeepers. So Alisson and Edison in the Premier League, top class players. And yes, they do have a world class backline in front of them with Ruben Diaz, Akanji, and these amazing players. However, they're very good with the ball at their feet. You know, they can probably do a lot of things that midfielders or attackers may be able to do. Is that what you try and implement on goalkeepers to give them the ability to play like an outfielder?
Yeah, of course. I try to combine, because today you have to be more like an outfield player, but the most important thing is to save shots. So I try to combine those both things to be an outfield player and to be a shot stopper, if you can call it that. So, but Ederson and Alisson, they're world class. So we are trying to find what could our goalkeepers do in the build up for, let's say, for the build up. How can we help them to find passes that we are how do you say, to break lines? How can they find passes to break lines? You don't have to always find the long passing. How can we help the goalkeepers with right positioning to find even more options to find those passes that breaks the line? So it's more of positioning for us in our club, talking really much about positioning, so we can have even more options to find those passes.
If a coach comes into the club, which is something that's happening with you guys now, there's been a change in coaches or head coach, should we say? Does that change or harden or easy your job? Because if a certain coach might want the goalkeeper to play the really quick ball so we can go on a fast, rapid counter attack, does that make your job adaptable? Do you have to change to specific coaches, or are you kind of split away from the coach and you do what you think's best?
No, I try to adapt, but now we have the new head coach is he was the assistant coach before, so it won't be so much changes. But of course, if it has to be changes, then we are adapting our goalkeepers to do what's needed to play as we want. So they have this year really, they had really big challenges this year. So that was also why we rotate so much. So, but they are adapting. I think that every session needs to be challenging, even though if it's the day before the game, you have to challenge them, even though those types of trainings as well. So, because football is about decision making, so we always have to challenge them in the decision making.
Is there a specific rota that you use, or do you just make it up as you go along, like the night before, or do you have a specific thing like this time you're going to do this and then this and this?
No, in the first we didn't have we didn't plan to rotate. We always want the goalkeeper that's in the best form, that's in the best for the that we feel is the best, that he has the best form, he will play. So it's not really specific for the opponent or something like that. It was always who's the best for the game.
I want to go back then to your time that you spent in Lindum, where you spent 3 years there overall. And I want to talk from the start to the end because you called it a special time and they played some good football. And we'll talk about the two statistics that you gave to me that have blown my mind near enough. So,
Yeah.
what division were they at that time? And
The,
you were a goalie coach as well.
yeah. So at that time we were Division One, third league here in Sweden. So when I came, they had done 1 year in the Division One. So when I came, they're starting their second season in the Division 1, and we had a really special way of playing. We tried to play as Manchester City did or is doing, and we did it with a lot of success. You did have the statistic there. How many passes did we have? I haven't.
669 average passes and 64% of possession.
Yeah. So we worked really much with the relations with the players had a good relationship with each other on the field. So they are at the end they are solving the situation by themselves. You didn't have to train on that. They came. They did it for themselves. They did it automatically. So they find solutions in the field all the time. So, but that I think Manchester City was the only team that had more passes and bigger possession than we had that season, if we look at the top leagues.
But what makes me so surprised is the fact that these players have just fallen behind Manchester City if you're going to look at these top leagues, like you just said. But how? How could a coach like yourself convert a team so well that they're playing like one of the best clubs in the world?
Oh, that's a really good question, because when I came to the club, I asked the same question to the head coach as well. But they had working with the same team, same players for almost 5 years. I would say 5 years when I came. So they have worked 5 years with the same team and building those relationships and always trying to play as they want. They believed in their philosophy. Because they had the year before, they almost how do you say, they almost got relegated, but they still continue to try to develop their way of play. So they believed in that and trained even harder. That's what I think. You have to make sessions where you can feel that the players are starting to have good relationships on the football field.
Did your playing career, has it ever influenced you in that moment or in moments today? Has your philosophy changed because of who you were as a player?
No, I was before my time, I would say. I love to play with my feet. I love to find those passes. Sometimes I even love to dribble. Never get the chance to dribble because the coach always yelled at me when he saw that it's time for me to dribble. So my philosophy has always been that you use the goalkeeper as an extra player, as an extra outfield player. So that's maybe done it easier for me to coach in those types of terms, or how do you say. So my philosophy when I was a player is still the same. Use the goalkeeper as an extra outfield player as much as possible, especially in the build-up.
We just spoke about your 3 years at Lindum, and you were also you were doing two jobs. You were a goalkeeper coach, and you were also a teaching assistant, which is what we're going to talk about now. However, you also did another job. We also did two jobs at once at a football club, but we'll talk about that one in a minute. So the time that you spent at Lindum, when you were the goalkeeper coach and the training assistant, that's two very separate jobs. How did you balance your life in the correct way to ensure that the children were getting their education, but also the players were getting theirs as well?
Oh, it was a hard time. I will not lie. It was a hard time. I did it for 6 years, uh, and just to make it sure, to be in Division 1, which means that you almost train as much as if you were playing or coaching in the top league. So majority of all the players and coaches are still dependent on their full-time job alongside the football. So it was really hard. You were always stressed out. First you have a full-time job, and then you have to quickly get something to eat, and then go to the coaching field. So it was a situation where sometimes I felt it's too much. Sometimes I felt it was too much, and I even was planning on to take a year off football just because it's become too much. Didn't have time to plan sessions. You felt that you were uh, stopped developing because you always just in Sweden we say släcka bränder. You try to put down the fire. It's fire everywhere, and but you don't have the time to put down the fire. So it was tough. So, but I also think that the 6 years I did in Division One learned me a lot. So in being that in situation, I think that that made my step to the top league much easier. So now I can put all my time on the team. You don't have to stress to get from one job to another. So I now have the time to really put my ideas to reality. So that's I think I learned a
What
lot.
sort of things? Yeah. So what sort of things did you learn that now makes you think? So when you look back on it today, so you're full time today, but you weren't a few years ago. When you look back at that, you must be quite grateful that you can do football as a full time job. And what has it taught you doing those part time roles?
First of all, hard work gives results. I worked really hard, and I believed in the work that I put down. But also, you have to be organized to have everything going. So I think that something more is that even though that you feel that now I'm gonna take a break, you still find some extra energy to keep on going. And I think because you believe in it so much, and you know that you are able to be in the top league. So never quit. Almost, even if I almost did. So work hard, and I learned to never quit. If I believe in something, then I will still continue to work for it. Uh, but then as well, be organized. Try to find solution for everything. Just put the time in it.
You're 33 years old currently, so ridiculously young to even consider such a high role in football, and you could still be playing football if you wanted to continue that. So, as I said, you're very young, and in the coaching world, you're going to have a lot more experience than other coaches who have possibly played in the past, but now coming into coaches. So you can be teaching those ex-players what they should and shouldn't be doing. So you could arguably have at least another 30 years in this role. And would it be spent in Sweden? Would it be spent to travel the world and take advantage of the job? Or would it be England or France or Spain?
Good question. I haven't. Yeah, of course, I have thought of that about that and dream to win Champions League and stuff like that. But when I start to work with this job full time, I just felt like here in EFK Värnamo, I have it. It's really good. I truly love my job, and I started to think in other directions. I just feel like it's the most important thing is that you are happy where you are, and right now I am really happy. I have one more year on my contract, but of course, in the future, maybe about in 10 years, 15 years, I would like to try a club outside Europe, maybe just to travel the world, as you said.
That's always such an interesting route because I've spoken to a number
Mm.
of players and coaches now, and it doesn't aggravate me, but it's always like, oh my God, you're very lucky to have a role that you have because you can travel the world with it. And especially speaking English or speaking more than one language would really, really benefit going out to Malaysia or going out to Vietnam or China or Japan or even to the other side of the world, so America. It will really, really help. And it's just so amazing that you can go to the MLS and still be in a hot country, do nice things. But regardless, that was a bit of a personal note from me. So when you go to these other divisions and you see the other teams, Liverpool, City, and you look into Spain and you see Barcelona, Real Madrid, what do you see in their goalkeepers or teams as a whole that you think you could change? So if you're going to base it off a specific goalkeeper, What would you like them to do more that they might not do so much of?
What I would like to see more in those goalkeepers. Was that the question?
Exactly, yeah.
Good question. Really good question. I would like to see if you can combine Oblak with Ederson, for example. If you could have his shot-stopping skills and Ederson's offensive skills, and that would be such a interesting challenge. If you can do those both things as they are doing, because Oblak, I think, is maybe the world's best goalkeeper if you talk about the defensive skills, and Ederson is maybe the best one offensively. So try to find a style, or try to find something that develop both of those things into one.
Set pieces. Set pieces are so underrated, I think, from my perspective, because they're an amazing opportunity to get the ball in the back of the net. And as a goalkeeping coach, you mustn't like free kicks from just outside the box, or a throw in that's near your defending area, or the area that you've got to defend. And as a set piece coach, or sorry, not as a set piece coach, as a goalkeeper coach, you've got to deal with your set pieces correctly. Do you like your goalkeeper to stand off the line? Do you like a big wall? Because that's all playing a part in your job.
Yeah, of course. I also have the set pieces in the club. So we are talking a lot of those things. If it's an outswing, then we want our goalkeepers to be more aggressive, to stand up high, and we want all the zone. We're playing a mix with zone and man-man marking, so we want our zone line to be quite high, and so the goalkeeper, it's depending on if it's an in-swing or outswing, and then we also analyze the opponent's offensive set pieces, and we also adapt to their set pieces. So sometimes we switch positions, sometimes we stand higher than we used to, sometimes we stay lower. So everything is to try to find the best solution to adapt to the opponent's offensive set pieces.
You've been doing the coaching role now for about 10 years, and it's gone very quickly. It seems that you've gone from, I hate to say it, but maybe the lower tiers to now going up to the top, which is perfect for you, and no disrespect to these other clubs. You must have had some memorable experiences in coaches, being a coach, and I'm not going to ask you to name all of them, but surely there's one or two that sticks out.
Yeah, of course. Kim Hellberg, as I worked with this year, his way of coaching, his sessions designed together with David Cellini, the assistant coach. Those two I have to mention because I've learned a lot. For me as a goalkeeper coach, I took with me a lot of things that I could develop in my coaching as a goalkeeper coach. So I would say those two, because their type of session design made it even a really good goalkeeper session as well. So those two, with how they are putting in the tactical in every session, it's just fantastic to work with those two. So but now sadly they have left the club, so we will see where they will end up, but those two I have to mention.
When you look around and you see goalkeepers, would you be able to tell their weaks and strengths and weaknesses straight away, or does it take maybe a few games? Because as it's your job to improve their weaknesses and improve on their game overall. So, how quickly would it take to turn, like punching, for example? How long would it take? How long would it take to make my punching a decent enough standard?
Good question. Just punching is you have to have the coordination for that as well. You have to have the timing for it. Yeah, so I would have to that specific technique. I would say that I could tell directly after 2 punches if you're good or bad. But it's something that you have to train with when you're in the young ages. You have to start with it there, because it's a lot of coordination and a lot of timing to make it a good technique. So I still have goalkeepers that are plus 30 years old that's still struggling with the punches. So that was a good example you took, the punches. But you can quite easily see where you have to be, where you have to develop the skills. So
That actually brings me on to a perfect point here. So Andre Onana for not Everton, for Manchester United. You've been seeing him, I'm sure you have, the memes that have been going around him not being the best of goalkeepers, and certainly making a statement as to why he signed for free to Manchester United. Why is he so bad in situations where he can't punch the ball or he can't do the basic things for a goalkeeper?
good question. I haven't seen enough to give you an
You don't want to.
direct answer, but it's a good question. Some are saying that he's standing with too much. How do you say? With his legs too much spread. But I don't think that's the case in this specific. It's small details that are. But I have seen too little from Onana this year. So, but I think Ten Hag had him in Ajax as well, and I think that the most why he signed him was for the offensive play, for the build-up play. That's my that's what I think. But yeah, sorry, I can't
No,
answer
no
that
problem.
question.
No problem. I don't like to give Onana as someone under the bus, because he has been a good keeper down the years. Don't get me wrong. As you said at Ajax, it's just unfortunate that he has been probably playing with Maguire and players like that. However, this season you've done a better job than Manchester United. You've improved on quite a few things, especially on the points and the goals conceded from the previous season. So you got promoted 3 years ago, and last season you finished 10th, and this season you finished, I forgot where you finished this season.
Fifth place.
Fifth. So that's not far off. So the top three get qualification into the Europa League and Champions League. So that might be a step where you guys are going to have to aim for next year. So you got 45 points last year with 30 games played, and the year before you got 37. So there's been a big increase in the points. Maybe not from a goalkeeping coach's perspective, but why has the points increased?
We have done a really good performance the whole season, I think, and we believed in the way we play and train, especially in the way we train. We trained really hard. You know, the guys have some weeks they have 3 double sessions, and we always are out on the field. We're never in the gym, so they are working really hard, and I think that gave us the result. They work hard, and we still try to develop the way that we played last season, but to develop it even more this season. So it's especially the work that they put in, the players.
And again, so from the first season when you got promoted, there was 47 goals conceded. This season, 34 goals. So you must have been extremely proud of your goalkeepers to keep more clean sheets, to concede less goals, and quite a few less goals as well, let me just add. So how, again, because has the goalkeepers improved? Have you signed new goalkeepers? Because surely you've played a big role in that.
The goalkeepers are the same as last season, but of course we did some changes in our way of defending the box. We did some changes in that, how the players are defending the goal. We talked really much on how to block shots, how to create relationships with the goalkeeper, defenders, and the goalkeeper. So the players know how and when to attack the striker. So we put a lot of work in that, a lot of analysis. We showed them some videos and really focused on those things, because we saw last year that we conceded too many goals in those types of situations. So we developed that even more, worked really much with the relationships in the defending the box. So that I think gave us a good result. We blocked a lot of shots, and we always have we always look on the positions when the shots are coming. We always look at the positions in training as well, where we have our defenders and where the goalkeepers are standing. So we always try to find those relationships in every training.
There must have been some challenges that you've faced as a coach, whether it be the session that you did may not have improved the players to the standard that you would have liked it to. Could you give us maybe a few examples of when that may have happened, where you face some challenges and they've been difficult to overcome?
Of course, there have been some challenges this year when it comes to decision making for the goalkeepers. They had a difficult to take a decision when they are supposed to defend the space behind the defensive line. So they have hard to know where they are, when they need to attack the ball or when they have to stay on the line and defend the goal. So there we had a lot of challenges. We conceded some goals because of that as well in the beginning of the season. So in the beginning of the season we had a quite tough period, but now after we worked a lot with that. We showed them videos. We tried to find solutions together, and when we how do you say, after a while we knew what we will have to do to make that even a bigger part. But that was the biggest challenge for the goalkeepers this season, was the decision making in when to attack the ball or when to stay and defend the goal.
When the new season comes around, do you set your goalkeepers' targets? 5 clean sheets, 10 clean sheets? What do you tell the goalkeepers that you want?
Yeah, we always talk about that in the start of the season. I ask them what they aim for. So, and you always try to aim higher than the last season. I think the last season there were 7 clean sheets, and this year we have 11 clean sheets. So I think that we talked about 10 this year, but most for a joke. We didn't took it so serious, but when we start to realize that this could really happen, that we have 10, then we start to aim even higher. So I think Jonathan Rashid, that's the first goalkeeper, said that he aimed for 12. So almost. But yeah, we talk about that. We talk about it. We not so serious, but we put a goal together where we are trying to target.
Do you prefer coaching the older or younger coaches? Because, as I said yesterday, I spoke to another goalkeeper coach, and he said you can have more banter, you can get on better with the older coach, because the younger coach, you need to develop into a certain method and mentality to mold them into the player that you would like them to be.
For me, I have, when I was in Lindome, I had a goalkeeper, Jon Alboge. He was 38 years old. He had played for the national team, and he was a professional football player his whole life. So when he came to Lindome, it was his first club where he couldn't had football for a living. But then I also had younger goalkeepers that I think I do almost the same. with the young and with the older ones. They have to adapt in our way of playing, in our style, and of course it's sometimes easier with the young players because the old ones, maybe if they come from another club, they have been taught a whole different thing, so it sometimes take even more time for the older ones to adapt for the new way of playing. So yeah, I would say it's easier with the young keepers because they always want more challenges. The older ones are maybe more secure in the way that they are playing, and has a little bit difficult to change that because it's been too long with the same thing. So the younger is easier to work with if you want to change too much.
Lastly, we have literally got hardly any time left, but I just wanted to ask you where you would like to finish next season in the Swedish top flight. You must want to improve on the 5th place. Would you be looking for Europa League? You knew it was coming.
We had our we had our we I it's a big question. You know, we are still a small club. Even though we came on 5th place, I don't think our economy got better for that. So we still have the same. We still have the same aim as we had last season. We'll try to secure a contract as soon as possible. To aim for the Europa League or something like that, I don't think that's really the we're not really there yet. We still don't know which players are leaving and which are staying. So we will start with that to see what kind of squad we will have in for to the season that are coming. So it's too early to say that we will try to aim for the Europa League. But of course, you always, as I said before, you always try to aim to be a better team than you were last year. So I will give you the boring answer. We will aim to be a better team than we were this year. But yeah, it's hard to say that we will try to fight with the big clubs. It's really hard. We are not really there yet, but maybe in 2-3 years, I think we could do that because we are still working really hard with our DNA and we think that that's the main reason that we are in Allsvenskan, and I think that that's the key for being in Allsvenskan for a long time, so to still continue with our way of play. So yeah, a boring answer, sorry, but to say that we will fight for the Europa League next year, it's it will be it's yeah, no, sorry, it
No
will be
problem. I mean,
too much.
the answer was generic, but I hope the interview wasn't so
Yeah,
generic for you and other people around the world. So I just wanted to say, Dusan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I do really wish you all the best for that Europa League next season.
thank you very much, Jamie. It was an honor to be here with you, and thank you very much for inviting me for this interview. So if you have any question, or if the viewers have any question, it's just to send me an email, and I will answer everything.